My name is Richard, and I need to tell you something that happened 6 months ago that finally made me see what I'd become. I built everything for my family for 40 years. I started with nothing and built a construction company worth $85 million. I built the house my family lived in. I built the college funds. I built the investment portfolios. I built financial security that would last generations. Forbes called me a self-made success story. Business journals profiled my rise from laborer to CEO. But 6 months ago, at my daughter's wedding, she stood up to give a toast, thanking the important people in her life. And when she got to me, she looked right at me, in front of 250 people, and said, "And to my father, William, thanks for the money. It paid for a lot of things." That was it. Not thanks for being there, not thanks for being a great dad, just thanks for the money. I'm 72 years old now. The company's sold, the bank accounts are full, but my daughter sees me as an ATM, not a father, an ATM. And sitting at that wedding, hearing those words, I finally understood. That's all I'd ever given her. Money. For 40 years, I built everything except what actually mattered. And by the time I realized it, she'd already written me off. And if you're out there right now, working endless hours, telling yourself you're building your children's future, telling yourself providing financially is the same as being present, I need you to hear this story, because I told myself those exact lies for 4 decades, and I was wrong about everything. Let me take you back to 1977. I was 32 years old, newly married to Margaret, and I'd just taken out a massive loan to start my own construction company. We had nothing. I mean nothing. We lived in a one-bedroom apartment. Margaret worked as a secretary. I was working construction sites, 70 hours a week, trying to get my business off the ground. Margaret was incredibly supportive. She'd say, "We'll get through this. You're building our future." And I believed her. I genuinely believed that if I could just work hard enough, sacrifice enough, build a successful enough business, we'd have everything we needed. Security, stability, success. That's the lie every provider tells themselves, that financial provision equals love. In 1980, our daughter Emma was born. I was on a construction site when Margaret went into labor. My foreman had to track me down on the scaffolding to tell me. I was annoyed. We were behind schedule. The client was breathing down my neck. But I went to the hospital. I held Emma for maybe 20 minutes before I started thinking about the site, about the deadline, about the money we'd lose if we didn't finish on time. I told myself I was doing this for her, building her future, making sure she'd never struggle the way I had, growing up poor, all the justifications every absent father makes. The pattern started immediately. I was never home. 80-hour weeks were standard. I'd leave before Emma woke up. I'd come home after she was asleep. Margaret would tell me about Emma's day, and I'd half listen while thinking about tomorrow's projects, tomorrow's problems, tomorrow's opportunities to make more money. In 1982, the company started to take off. We landed bigger contracts. I hired more workers. We moved to a bigger house. I told Margaret, "See, it's working. We're building something." She said, "Emma misses you." I said, "She's 2. She won't remember this." But they do remember. Kids always remember. I have this memory that haunts me. Emma was maybe 4 years old. It was a Saturday. I was home for once, but I was in the garage going over blueprints. She came out in her little dress, all excited, asking if I'd come inside and have a tea party with her, and her stuffed animals. I said, "Not now, sweetheart. Daddy's working." She said, "But it's Saturday. You said you don't work on Saturdays." I'd forgotten I'd promised her that. I said, "Just this once. I'll play with you later." She stood there, in the garage doorway, holding her stuffed bear, waiting to see if I meant it. I didn't look up from the blueprints. After maybe 30 seconds, she walked away. I heard her ask Margaret if she'd come to the tea party instead. I finished reviewing the blueprints. I never went to that tea party. I told myself there'd be time later. Always later. By 1985, the company was worth $2 million. We moved to an even bigger house. Emma had her own bathroom, her own playroom. I bought her every toy she wanted. I told myself I was being a good father. Look at what I'm providing. Look at this life I'm building for her. But I wasn't at her school plays. I wasn't at her dance recitals. I wasn't at parent-teacher conferences. Margaret handled all of that. I was building, always building. Houses, buildings, wealth. Everything except a relationship with my daughter. In 1988, our son James was born. I was at a meeting with investors when Margaret called. I told her I'd be there soon. I finished the meeting first. 2 hours later, I got to the hospital. James was already born. Margaret didn't even look surprised that I'd missed it. She'd learned not to expect me. Emma was 8 years old. She came to the hospital to meet her brother. I tried to hug her, and she was stiff, awkward, like hugging a stranger. I was her father, and she didn't know how to hug me. That should have been my wake-up call. It wasn't. The 1990s were a blur of growth. The company expanded to 3 cities. We were doing commercial projects worth millions. I was working 90-hour weeks, traveling constantly. Emma was in middle school, then high school. James was in elementary school. I missed everything, every milestone, every important moment. I'd show up occasionally with expensive gifts. I took Emma to buy her first car when she turned 16. I wrote the check, handed her the keys, and left for a meeting. She thanked me politely. No excitement, no emotion. Just thanks, Dad. Margaret tried to talk to me about it. The kids don't know you, William. You're a stranger who buys them things. I got defensive. I said I was working for them, building their future. She said they don't need more things. They need their father. But I didn't know how to be a father. I only knew how to be a provider. In 1998, Emma went to college, Stanford. I wrote the tuition checks. All 4 years, never missed a payment. I visited campus once in 4 years. Once. She didn't ask me to come more often. She'd learned I wouldn't show up anyway. In 2000, the company hit $20 million in value. I was on top of the world, professionally, financially, but Emma called maybe twice a year. Brief conversations. How's school? Fine, Dad. Do you need anything? No, I'm good. Okay, well, let me know. That was the extent of our relationship. James was in high school. Same pattern. He knew I'd pay for whatever he needed. He also knew I wouldn't be there for anything that mattered. His games, his concerts, his life. I funded it all. I attended none of it. Margaret gave up trying to bridge the gap. She stopped telling me about the kids' lives because I clearly didn't care enough to be part of them. She raised them essentially as a single mother, while I built an empire. In 2005, I sold the company for $85 million. I was 60 years old. Everything I'd worked for. I thought, this is it. Now I can slow down. Now I can focus on family. Now I can be the father I always meant to be. Except Emma was 25, living in New York, with a whole life I knew nothing about. James was in college. They were adults. Strangers who happened to share my DNA and my last name. I tried to reconnect. I'd call Emma. She'd be polite but distant. I'd offer to visit. She'd say she was busy. I'd invite her home. She'd come for obligatory holidays. Stay 2 days. Leave. We'd have surface conversations about her job, the weather, nothing real. In 2010, Margaret asked for a divorce. 33 years of marriage. She said, I've been alone for decades, William. You built everything, except a marriage. I'm done. I couldn't argue. She was right. I'd been physically present maybe 20% of our marriage. The rest of the time I was building. After the divorce, my relationship with the kids got worse. They sided with Margaret. Of course they did. She'd actually been there. I was just the guy who paid the bills. Over the next decade, I saw Emma maybe 3 times a year, brief lunches, when I'd visit New York. Awkward conversations. I'd ask about her life. She'd give me the edited version, the version you give to acquaintances. Nothing real, nothing vulnerable. James was the same, civil but distant. I was the father who provided financially but nothing else. And they treated me accordingly, with polite appreciation for the money and nothing more. Then last year, Emma got engaged to a man I'd met exactly once. She called to tell me, asked if I'd pay for the wedding, not walk her down the aisle, just pay for it. Like I was a bank, not her father. I said yes, of course. I always said yes to financial requests. It was the only way I knew how to show love. 6 months ago was the wedding. Beautiful venue, 250 guests. I wrote the check, $150,000. I sat at a table in the back, not at the head table. Margaret sat up front, with her second husband. He'd been in Emma's life for 8 years. He knew her, actually knew her. During the reception, Emma gave a toast. She thanked her mother for everything, for being her rock, for showing her what strength looks like. She thanked Margaret's husband for stepping into her life and treating her like a daughter. She talked about how grateful she was for the people who'd shaped her. Then she looked at me, directly at me, sitting at that back table, and she said, "And to my father, William, thanks for the money. It paid for a lot of things. This wedding, my education, my car. So thanks for that." She raised her glass. Everyone clapped politely. She moved on to thank other people. That was it. My entire relationship with my daughter, summarized in one sentence. Thanks for the money. Not thanks for being there. Not thanks for supporting me. Not thanks for being a great father. Just thanks for the money. Because that's all I'd ever given her. 40 years of checks and 0 years of presents. I sat there, surrounded by people celebrating my daughter's happiness, and I finally understood. I'd spent 40 years building everything. Houses, a company, wealth, security, everything except a relationship with my daughter. And she'd reduced me to what I'd actually been, a funding source, an ATM in a suit. After the wedding, I tried to talk to her. I said the toast hurt. She looked at me with genuine confusion and said, "But that's what you did, Dad. You paid for things. What else would I thank you for? What else would I thank you for?" That question destroyed me, because she was right. What had I done besides pay? I hadn't been at her childhood. I hadn't been at her achievements. I hadn't been there for her heartbreaks, her struggles, her triumphs. I just sent money and told myself that was enough. I asked if we could talk, really talk about our relationship. She said, "Dad, I don't think we have a relationship. You're my father biologically and financially. That's it. You've never been my dad." Those words, "You've never been my dad." From my own daughter, the truth spoken plainly. I'm 72 years old now, 6 months past that wedding. Emma and I speak maybe once a month, brief calls. She's polite. She thanks me when I send money for birthdays, holidays. She treats me exactly like what I am, a distant relative who sends checks. James is the same. I'm the father who provided financially and nothing else. And they appreciate the money. They really do. But that's all they appreciate, because that's all I gave. Here's what took me 72 years to learn. Your children don't need your money as much as they need you. Providing financially isn't the same as being present. You can build wealth and still fail as a father. I built everything for my family for 40 years. A company, a fortune, financial security for generations. And my daughter's toast at her wedding reduced all of it to one sentence. Thanks for the money. Because that's the truth. That's all I gave. I was so busy building everything that I never built what actually mattered. A relationship, a connection, memories, love. I see men today making the same mistake, working endless hours, telling themselves they're providing for their kids, buying expensive gifts and thinking that's love, missing moments while building wealth. And I want to grab them and say, your kids don't want your money. They want you, your time, your attention, your presence. The toys and the big house and the college fund mean nothing if you're not actually there. If I could go back to 1980 and talk to my 35-year-old self, here's what I'd say. Put down the blueprints and go to the tea party. That contract can wait. That meeting can be rescheduled. But Emma is 4 years old right now, and she wants to have a tea party with her dad. And if you miss it, you can't get it back. Your company will survive if you work 40 hours instead of 80. Your bank account will be smaller, but your daughter will know you, actually know you. And when she gets married, her toast won't be thanks for the money. It'll be thanks for being there. I built an $85 million empire and lost my children in the process. And my daughter's toast told the truth. I was the money guy, not her father, just the man who paid for things. So if you're out there right now, working late again, telling yourself you're providing for your kids, I'm begging you, stop. Go home, put your kids to bed, read them a story, play with them, be there. Not just physically present while mentally at work, actually there. Because I promise you, when your daughter gets married, you don't want her toast to be thanks for the money. You want it to be thanks for being my dad. I never got that. And I never will. Because for 40 years, I chose to build everything except what mattered. And now I'm 72 years old, rich and alone, reduced to an ATM by my own daughter. Don't be me. Choose presence over provision. Choose relationship over revenue. Choose your kids over your career. Because money means nothing if your children see you as nothing more than a source of it. Learn from me. Choose differently. Before your daughter stands up at her wedding and thanks you for the only thing you ever gave, the money.